So, Lady C, can I ask you what message you would give to Prince Harry on his 40th birthday? If you could speak to him directly, what would be your birthday message to the Duke of Sussex?
Join a 12-step program. Join a 12-step program and hopefully save yourself and your children. That would be my message to him.
Very
Join
clear.
a 12-step program. Give up the substances. Give up the nonsense. Give up the marriage.
Lady C, Prince Harry at 40. This is someone who you have followed for a very long time. Where is he at in his life? And is it right to say that he's living in sadness and exile?
I think it's a little bit more turbulent and complex than that, Dan. I think that he is sometimes satisfied, sometimes happy, and I gather often miserable. So I don't think it's a straightforward thing. Uh, I would be very surprised that the penny hasn't dropped, that he has actually burnt all of his bridges. And all these supposed forays back here and, false narratives about he wants to come back. I think he has to know that he has burnt his bridges and there is no way back. And he, to an extent, was very reckless in burning bridges. But, that's his personality. Harry has a very addictive personality. And he also is a very extreme personality. He doesn't have a middle ground that's governed by reason or indeed by education. And I mean, they try to educate him, but they try to train him, but he's not really capable of being educated, which was very apparent even at school. He simply doesn't have the ability to absorb the information and to process it in a constructive way. So I don't think it's that he's miserable 24/7, 365 days of the year. But I also understand he leads a pretty lonely life and that he doesn't really like that and that he would have liked the camaraderie that he used to have, but he doesn't have it. And living in California it's very isolating because you're never that close to anybody you're going to see. You're about 30 to 40 minutes minimum, sometimes 3-4 hours away from people you'd like to see closely. If you're living in London, you're 20 to 30 minutes away from everyone. And remember, the royals spend a lot of time in London. So Harry had access to people in London, or when he was in the country, he had access to people around him. There's not going to be the neighbor that in Montecito that there would have been when he was at Highgrove or Sandringham or Balmoral. It just is geographically not the same thing. So I think he's really stuck, and I think he most likely would like to be unstuck. But I honestly don't think that he's always miserable. But I do understand he's often very miserable.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. Now, I want to come to those false narratives that you talk of surrounding a so-called return to royal life and this operation Bring Harry in from the cold. Now, what I find particularly bizarre, but I'm sure you'll have a view on it, is why is the Daily Mail pushing all of these false narratives so hard? Why are they so desperate at the Daily Mail to pile pressure on Prince William to reconcile with Harry? I don't get that, so I'd love you to talk about that. But fundamentally, I think it is true that he is back in touch with certain friends who he completely ghosted, because he clearly does have regrets about that. And that does also suggest that Meghan no longer has the same influence over him that she did previously, because she was the one behind him ghosting his close friends. And I'm talking about a lot of friends from the military and from polo circles and his Eton mates. But fundamentally, there is no way back, as you say. And I think he knows that deep down.
Yes, he does. He does. I'm not quite sure what part of that you want me to address.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot. I know I threw a lot at you, so you take them however you choose, Lady C, in whatever order you want.
Oh, well, Dan, I think the Daily Mail has circulation needs. The Daily Mail, as you know, has the largest website in the world. It needs to sustain that. It needs content. So right there, it doesn't need to be accurate. It just needs content. And you know, you've been in the media for a long time. You know, a lot of those editors take a very cynical view. It doesn't really matter if it's accurate. It's going to be dropping off the page in 14 hours. So, you know, there's that cynical element to it. Also, of course, the Mail want to be able to stand up in a court of law and say, look, we have not been negative about Harry unless we absolutely had to be. So I think there's that element that kicks in as well. That's my take on it. That he, sorry, that he has them so intimidated in terms of legal matters that they are bending over backwards to sustain a positive narrative wherever possible. Then there's also the fact, as Robert Jobson said to me in 1992, when I said, and Robert in those days was the royal correspondent of the Express. And I said to him, I said, and I think in those days, the Express was still owned by my sister-in-law's uncle, Sir Max Aitken. I think it was. Anyway, whatever. I said to Robert, I said, why is it that you guys write such lies about Diana when you know they're lies? Because, you know, they made her out to be better than good and more perfect than Mother Teresa. And he said to me, he said, well, George, you know, the fact of the matter is, if we spoke the truth about her, people wouldn't like her as much. And so she would cease being so newsworthy. And I think there's that element where the Mail and many other of the publications are concerned with Harry and with Meghan. They know if they speak the unexpurgated truth, it doesn't add sufficient variety to the narrative to keep people hooked. So I think there's that element to it as well. What do you think?
I think there is an element of that, but I think they're also terrified of the lawfare that Harry has been conducting against them, genuinely chilled by it. And I think they have a deluded hope every now and then. It happened a couple of times when I was writing for them and they would say, oh, we don't want you being nasty about Meghan and Harry. I said, too bad. And obviously I was on GB News at that point, so I'd still talk about it on my show, even if they wouldn't publish my columns. But I think it's a deluded hope, but every now and then they think that there's a way back, there's a way to reconcile with Harry. And the reason they want that reconciliation is so that he drops the court case fundamentally, because the court case is obviously going to be costly, but I'd say it's going to be more reputationally damaging, because remember, this is a court case, Lady C, that involves Doreen Lawrence, the mother of Stephen Lawrence, you know, Elton John. It's bigger than just Harry. So I think you are right in terms of they want the hits. They also want to be able to stand up in a court of law and say, we're not always nasty about this guy. But I think they also genuinely believe there's a chance of reconciliation. Personally, I think they're completely deluded, because you know that Harry is on a one-man mission and the mission will fail, but he's not going to give in.
Well, not only is he on a one-man mission about his own admission, but he is being pumped up by David Sherborne.
Yes.
Now, my lawyers happen to know David Sherborne. And, I mean, David Sherborne is very well known in the legal world. And, I mean, some of the opinions about him, including from people who've been close to him, including married to him, are hardly possible to repeat. But David Sherborne is very bright, and David Sherborne has his hand up Harry, and he twiddles Harry, and he's led Harry, who's easily manipulated, to believe that Harry can prevail in this quixotic notion. But since Harry doesn't even know what the word quixotic means, or that it has anything to do with Don Quixote, and that the man of La Mancha was always tilting at windmills, I mean, it's really easy for him to be having Harry.
Yep.
And I think so Harry, though, I think it's not only Harry. I think Harry is led by far cleverer people than he is. Because remember, David Sherborne, by Harry's own admission, has created this whole and sculpted this whole scenario. And of course, David Sherborne's going to make a heck of a lot of money, whether he wins or loses.
And he wants the attention. Sherborne is an absolute fame whore. He wants the attention. He loves being pictured with celebrities walking in and out of court. And as a result, people tell me, Lady C, that he will never become a KC because they know what he's all about. He wants to be a celebrity. And you're right, he has completely manipulated Harry, like he's done with lots of celebrities, actually, led them up garden paths. And it hasn't been good for him. And actually, there's even a divide in Harry's marriage over this because Meghan Markle doesn't like the fact that he's engaged in all of these lawsuits. Now, Lady C, you've been involved in lawsuits like this. I've been involved in lawsuits like this. It is miserable. It absolutely takes over every aspect of your life. And to choose to want to bring so many of them into your life. I mean, we only did it when we absolutely had to. And I've been very open about one of those lawsuits. In my case, I deeply regret, even though it wasn't my choice to file suit. So the fact that he wants this in his life, I think actually points to the deep unhappiness that he feels. But first, digestive issues are caused by a potential toxin that's in all of the, quote, healthy foods that scientists have been telling us to eat with a fraudulent food pyramid for the longest time. And this potential toxin causes digestive issues. According to Dr. Gundry, a world-renowned cardiologist, this is affecting millions of people nationwide. Warning signs include weight gain and fatigue, digestive discomfort and stiff joints, even skin problems. Well, Dr. Gundry explains these side effects can be manipulated and mistaken for normal signs of aging because digestive issues develop usually over a matter of years and sometimes even decades. I can assure you that the damage is probably caused by these health foods and it's far from normal. The good news is you can easily help fix the problem from your own home. It's very simple. You just have to know which foods are actually healthy and which contain this hidden potential toxin. So you can go find this yourself at gutcleanseprotocol.com/outspoken. That's gutcleanseprotocol.com/outspoken. I've put the link in our show notes on YouTube and Rumble too. Because after years of research, Dr. Gundry has decided to release an informative video to the public, free and uninterrupted, showcasing exactly which foods you need to avoid. Go find that video at gutcleanseprotocol.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description below. But now, back to the show.
Well, I think it points to him being a messianic character and very delusional. And it also shows how idiotic he is. Because, I mean, Harry, it's been quite clear that Harry cannot win any of these cases, absolutely. And if you don't win them absolutely, you have to pay the other side's costs as well as your own, up to the extent of what you have lost. And of course, the newspapers are sufficiently clever as to take part, part 36 uh, maneuvers where they pay something into court, and it's a sufficiently large sum that if you don't take it and you proceed with the case and you don't prevail to that extent, you have to pay all the other side's costs, even if you win, and they have to pay. So if say Associated Newspapers puts, say, 300,000 or even 2 million into court and pays it into court, and Harry says, no, I'm going to proceed. I won't mind in court. And the damages are 1 million. He has to pay all his costs and all their costs. So you're looking at 10 or 12 million right there. And that's just one case. And I mean, David Sherborne's brief fee is well over £250,000 at the various minimum. Then there is a daily refresher of, I forget what it is, I was told, I don't remember now, 20, £30,000 per diem for the whole of the case, even those bits that do not involve Harry. I mean, you're looking at, and that's why Meghan doesn't want him to proceed, which is absolutely correct. And my own feeling is that at some point he is going to settle, and that the Mail and he are edging towards an agreement whereby he will settle. And so that in part, I think, accounts for their positivity towards him and their willingness to publish a whole load of claptrap that they know is claptrap.
Yeah. Well, indeed. And as I say, what I have found particularly offensive is the pressure, the public pressure that they are piling on Prince William, who, let's be honest, Harry is at the bottom of his priorities. Now, he is. He's not the priority. The priority is focusing on duty, given the extra responsibilities he's had to pick up with King Charles's illness, and obviously nursing his wife back to health. So his priority is no longer Harry. That ship has sailed well and truly.
I agree. It has sailed well and truly. And my understanding is that Harry's name is, by and large, not even mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the Harry subject is a non-starter, and there's no need to exhaust it with repeated examination, because everybody knows no means no, and it's as simple as that.
Indeed.
And of course, though, the Mail will do that because they know cynically that ultimately, irrespective of what they say about William now, that William is going to have to cooperate with them down the line, because they are an important newspaper company and he is the monarch in waiting and will one day be the monarch. So whether he loathes them or loves them, he's going to have to cooperate with them. They know it and he knows it. So that gives them flexibility where Harry and trashing William is concerned, just as how they're using positivity to doubtless edge towards a settlement with Harry. I mean, I would be very surprised, and I mean, I could be wrong, this is just my assessment, but I would be very surprised if at some point Harry and the Associated Newspapers don't settle. Because there's nothing, he can't win. He can't win. So,
no, indeed.
You know.
Now, there may have been some good news for Harry on his 40th birthday week, because according to this headline in Newsweek, and I should point out, it is written by a propagandist for Prince Harry, Jack Royston, Prince Harry visa drugs case closed after secret ruling. And the story reads, a lawsuit brought over Prince Harry's visa status by conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation has been terminated, Newsweek can reveal. The Duke of Sussex wrote in his memoir Spare how he had taken drugs including cocaine, marijuana and magic mushrooms. Heritage filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security, demanding the publication of Harry's visa documents, arguing that his use of narcotics should have barred him from living and working in America. However, court records show that the case was terminated on September the 9th when several sealed orders were filed in the case heard in Washington, D.C. before Judge Carl J. Nichols. If that is the outcome, it will likely bring relief for the prince, as Heritage had suggested his drug taking could undermine his right to live in America. Now, not so fast, say the Heritage Foundation. Niall Gardner posts on X, update on Prince Harry US immigration records federal court case. Prince Harry repeatedly admitted to using illegal drugs in his memoir. This fact alone makes him inadmissible into the United States. We sued to get answers on a simple question of whether the government gave Prince Harry preferential treatment when he entered the country. It appears the judge has ruled, and that ruling is under seal. We know nothing about how the judge ruled. Nothing should be read into that order or that it is under seal. We have always said this case is unique and opinions can be initially sealed. In such cases, we will continue to monitor the situation. So this is getting curiouser and curiouser, Lady Colin Campbell. What do you make of it?
Well, Dan, I've been saying for some time now that Harry is a special case, and Harry is under a visa, a special visa. Harry is the member of a reigning royal family. Members of reigning royal families, there are two categories. There's the monarch, and then there's the rest of the family. And Harry is a member of that family. And so they have a special category of visa that allows them to enter the country. And he is a special case. I've said it all along. It doesn't matter whether the Democrats or the Republicans are in power. As long as he's the son of the king, it's all going to be wished away eventually. And it's clearly been wished away. And I think, though, what people don't seem to understand is he didn't have to queue up at, what's it called?
Immigration.
9L, where the American embassy is, and go and see some consul. He didn't have to do that. He was never going to have to do that. He was never going to have to fill out a form the way the average person has to with a visa. It's a special category. He is a special case. I understand why the Heritage Foundation did what it did. It's made a very valuable point and a good point, which is showing that Harry is being treated specially. And whether Harry lied or not is neither here nor there. Even if he lied, he was always going to be able to get away with it. I mean, there have been members of other royal families whose, I'm not going to mention their names because I know some of them, where they were caught totally drug-addled in their houses in the middle of Hollywood. And nothing was done about it because, again, they are on its head of state and family visas. And there's a reason for it, which is very important in terms of the British royal family and their money, which is if Harry were on an ordinary residence visa and he had residency status as opposed to a special category visa, which allows him to live there indefinitely without being a resident. If he were a resident, he would have to pay tax to Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam would have the right to examine his accounts and everything related to them. Now, because a large share of Harry's money is coming from royal family trusts, which are secret. If Uncle Sam had the right to examine Harry's financial affairs, they would have the right to go behind not only Harry's, but everybody concerned with the trusts. And I know this to be a fact because when my mother was dying in the early 2000s, and the bank required one of either me or my two sisters, one of us, to be a co-signatory on her accounts. This was in Grand Cayman. They refused to have either of my sisters because they were both American citizens, and they will not have an American citizen or resident having any, even being a signatory on someone else's account in Grand Cayman. None of the banks, because they will not. To do that would mean that Uncle Sam could then examine, as a result of them being a signatory, the whole thing. And that's why this whole situation has been set up the way it has been set up. And that is the reason behind why it will continue. Because if Harry should opt to be an American resident in the ordinary course, as anybody else would have to be, that gives Uncle Sam the right to drive a coach and horses through all of the royal family's finances. And then they would have to be made public.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense, actually. So, Lady C, can I ask you what message you would give to Prince Harry on his 40th birthday? If you could speak to him directly, what would be your birthday message to the Duke of Sussex?
Join a 12-step program. Join a 12-step program and hopefully save yourself and your children. That would be my message to him. Join a 12-step program. Give up the substances. Give up the nonsense. Give up the marriage. Because normally, I mean, Dr. Max Glatt, who was the great alcoholic expert, would never take on a husband and wife, except with the understanding that if they were together, once the spouse went into treatment, they would have to inevitably be separated, because the rationale being that an addict who is married to somebody, except in the most extraordinary of situations, that spouse will prevent them from achieving the sobriety and the serenity and the spiritual regeneration that the 12-step program demands of you if you're going to do it properly. So that would be my advice to him.
Happy birthday from Lady Colin Campbell. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.